So I'm interested in Parkinson's disease research because when I started in graduate school at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, the first genetic link to Parkinson's disease was just identified by the NIH. And it was a really fascinating study because up until that time, nobody envisioned that Parkinson's disease, such a complex disease, could have any genetic component that's significant whatsoever. And it turned out that just a single mutation in 3 billion of our base pairs of DNA was sufficient to cause the complexity of Parkinson's disease. So this really fascinated me in terms of what can be understood through future genetic studies and opening the door in terms of how neurodegenerative diseases operate, who's susceptible, and what can be done to try to cure them. So the goals of our research in this biomarker program from NIH are basically twofold. The first goal is to identify individuals at risk for developing Parkinson's disease, and further to identify markers such as proteins in blood and urine that change and give information as to how the disease is progressing. And this is important because we want to know whether an individual therapy that we've started for a person is having a positive effect or not. So the second prong to our research program that we've started is developing the technology and assays to look at the activity of a particular protein that we think is important in the development of Parkinson's disease. And this protein is called LRRK2. And ultimately, we're going to be able to know whether this protein is inhibited in Parkinson's disease once those drugs become available. So our work in this program is really a discovery type project where we integrate in both some unbiased approaches where we admit that we don't know fully all of the pathways underlying Parkinson's, but that we suspect some are kind of central. So in our discovery project, the big problem in therapeutic research that's been seen over the last decade is that findings tend to be idiosyncratic to an individual population. So we're looking in our population, and we're also developing the technology so that in a few years' time it can branch out to many centers and see how robust and how reliable the tests that we develop really are. So we really have a twofold objective in helping people with Parkinson's disease. First, we want to identify those at risk for going on to develop Parkinson's disease. So kind of people who may be at high risk for a number of reasons. And our second big goal is to develop technology that's centered around a protein we think is important in Parkinson's disease called LRRK2. And we're developing the technology so that when someone's treated with a drug that targets this protein, we'll know when the drug positively engages the protein. So in drug and therapeutic research, you want to use the minimum amount of drug for your positive effect, and having a way to read that out is a term that we call pharmacodynamic kinetics. And we're developing the assays in this grant program to build and develop that technology. So right now, in this kind of discovery phase of the project, we're just recruiting from the University of Alabama Movement Disorder Center in Birmingham, and we hope in the future to spread out to other institutes.